I am here with our town manager, Adam Chapdelaine. Adam, always a pleasure. You know that.
Thank you. Good to see you, James.
Got a few things to cover as always, and going to start in the same place as always as well, although I do have a slightly different angle I'd like you to take, and that's talking about COVID-19. The numbers, once again, here in Arlington, staying fairly flat, a couple more cases over the course of the last week. But essentially, you look at the graphs and those lines are nice and flat. Know that that's good news. But I'm wondering whether you, the town, the Board of Health, et cetera, as you look at these numbers and in the aggregate, they look pretty flat. Are you paying still particular attention because there might be, segments either of the population, parts of town, or institutions in town, et cetera, that you're always monitoring particularly closely? How is it that you approach, what looks like essentially a kind of flat line on the graph and still being vigilant about it?
So this work is definitely being done by the Health and Human Services staff, led by Christine Bongiorno, Natasha Waden, and the team that works with them. I guess I'd best say that the numbers, the slight upticks that we have seen in what are relatively flat numbers are in a younger population. So we have been focusing on that, trying to make sure we understand how that spread is happening and making sure that we're reinforcing the behaviors that are preventing the spread from happening in other age ranges. So I can't say that the analysis is, as far as I'm as involved in it, is much deeper than that. But I know that there is particular attention paid to making sure that daycare centers are safe and that there isn't, sort of a system spread there. Attention is certainly being paid to our senior living facilities to avoid there being another spread there as there was at the beginning of the pandemic. So I think where it leaves us is wanting to stay vigilant to prevent community spread. So there has been, those few numbers, and again, the younger age demographics over the past few weeks, which seem to have been spreading in the community. And I think we just want to continue to remind people to do everything they can to avoid that. Keep that mask on, keep your distance, try to stay outside. Please don't have big parties, please don't have big gatherings, and go down the list. And I think we all understand that, conducting ourselves in the manner that we're supposed to, we don't get risk down to zero, but we can get it down pretty low. And I think that's the point we want to just keep reiterating, that there's going to be certain institutional risks that might exist, and we try to manage those as best possible. Again, daycares, when school reopens, senior living facilities, there's, again, certain risks in just the operation of those institutions that we want to make sure either we're mitigating or the operators of those institutions are mitigating. But again, in general, we want to continue to push on, stay vigilant, keep your behavior the way it is, because something's working, right? We're not getting community spread, but let's not get sort of lulled into a false sense of security by that, and keep doing what we're doing.
Right, as you say, something's working, and really it's kind of like everything in combination seems to be working. So let's make sure that everything in combination continues. And
let's call a spade a spade. I mean, I'm not a scientist, and I don't claim to know that this is actually the case, but it serves to reason that the good weather and the fact that people have been outside has helped us all out a lot, right? We're not in small rooms with potentially inadequate ventilation with other people very often these days. Come the fall and the winter, that's going to begin to change, or at least the temptation for that to change is going to begin. And I think that's where the vigilance is really going to have to kick in. That, until there's a vaccine, until there's herd immunity, it's not going to be over. And getting back into small rooms with larger groups of people is, that's where the risk is going to go through the roof.
A really good point. And, one last word, and I've mentioned this before, but I am continuously impressed as I move through the streets of Arlington on a daily basis, just to see how many people are outside, not necessarily coming anywhere close to 6 feet of contact with somebody else, and yet still being masked very consistently, and just, the compliance around face coverings. is impressive, I gotta say.
That's been my experience too. I mean, we do receive some complaints about lack of compliance, but I would say in my general experience walking around town, it's pretty good. You know,
Yeah,
not perfect. No place is perfect, but I think for the most part, people are respecting the requirements.
agreed. I'm question then. So we're speaking, Adam, as we do on Mondays, and today is Monday, August 31st, which means tomorrow is primary election day. It is, like so many things, unlike any election day we have faced in a while, although we also had one in the spring that was interesting, right? Anyway, just wanted to get your sense of how things are going. New clerk in the clerk's office as of a little while back. New procedures, lots of information to get out to people. How do you see this going?
So it has been a lot of work on the part of the clerk's office and other departments that have been helping. The new clerk, Julie Brazil, has stepped right in and really provided great leadership on the process. The clerk staff has been working night and day. We've had the parking control officers who are not enforcing parking meters because they're shut down right now. They've been in working their full schedules, helping the clerk's office process ballot applications and ballots. We've had 2 librarians there full-time who we set aside their library duties for the past several weeks, and they've been working with the clerk's office. And then general government staff from my office, from the select board's office. I believe the treasurer's office has sent people upstairs, same for the assessors. It has been all hands on deck to process what has literally been thousands of vote by mail applications and to get those ballots back out. So it's been a lot of work. There's been moments, you know, a couple weeks ago where not everybody was unsure how we were going to marshal the resources to get it done. But I think we're in good position now. The 3 ballot drop-off boxes are out. They're trying to make it easier for people to get their ballots back. And hopefully we'll get through tomorrow with what will be the last election of our long-serving ballot machines, voting machines, excuse me. So you know, there were some shutdowns or shutoffs in the local election back in June. We want to get through tomorrow and then get to the new machines in November. But all told, it's been, from my view, really an incredible effort by a multi-department effort to get this done and you know, maintain the democratic process.
Yeah, that is interesting. I did not realize that you were drawing folks from really a host of different departments to, you know, I guess that's the kind of thing, the kinds of flexible thinking and flexible deployment of resources that needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we learned it in June, right? That the staffing of the clerk's office, they're just not staffed for this surge. And it's a new thing, right? We've never done vote by mail in such a large quantity. So yeah, they're not built for that surge capacity, but learned a little bit about it in June. It was a little more intense this time around. But yeah, we pushed that surge capacity as best possible. And now I think we're very ready for November, where, you know, I will admit, you know, maybe 3-4 weeks back, we were saying, all right, where else can we get somebody? Where else can we get somebody from? Now for November, we're going to know how many people we need, how we put the work, you know, the workflow together and make sure we get it done.
Great. And I'll just add that I deposited my own ballot in one of the drop-in boxes a couple of days ago, and I don't know, it's kind of fun, I gotta say.
Nice.
So moving on, we had a story in last week's newscast about the reintroduction of bike sharing that's coming into Arlington, and moving from the Lime bikes that had been here for a couple of years and to the new system with the blue bikes. There are various differences between the two things, but let me ask you just for your take on what the Lime bike experience was like from your perspective, and also what you anticipate in terms of the kinds of changes moving from dockless bikes, which were left all over the place, right? And people had the luxury to do that, to now a docked system, but also one that is going to extend, I think, much further the range that people can use the bikes. So just your thoughts on the introduction of blue bikes here.
So, I mean, I'll start by saying I am super excited that blue bikes are coming, and really all the credit goes to the Department of Planning and Community Development. Jenny Raitt, Dan Amstutz, other people on the team, they have just been pushing on this, getting the grant funding that made it happen, working with the other communities that are part of it, working with Blue Bikes and their operating company, Motivate and Lift. They've just been great at making this happen. But like you said, I think I really liked the flexibility of the dockless model when Lime Bike was first introduced. I didn't like that you basically couldn't cross Arlington's border into Cambridge or Somerville and utilize it. I mean, I think I've probably told you this story, James, where I took the Red Line back to Alewife after meeting a friend in Central Square and wanted to take a Lime Bike from Alewife home. And there was one right at the Cambridge border, but when they crossed the border, they would be shut down. And I thought I would be a smart guy and pick it up and carry it over the Arlington border. And it started yelling at me that I was stealing it and that the police would be called. And so I think that's a great anecdote to why, even though in a lot of ways the flexibility of dockless was so good, the fact that by the virtue of the system we have, it couldn't cross borders, so the usability functionality became limited.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think correspondingly, I don't know a lot about the inner workings of Lime's business model, but what started with, I think, a good population of bikes in the town started to dwindle. And again, then being able to find them became challenging, and thereby the usability again wasn't quite what it was at its inception. So you shift to dock-based, a little less flexibility because the docks are going to be where the docks are going to be. But like you alluded to, we are now linked up to Cambridge, Somerville, Boston. We're going to be linked up to, if you wanted to go all the way to Watertown, I guess maybe you could ride to Newton, right? Like that, you could really be connected to Brookline through this network.
Next stop, Rhode Island, right? Yeah.
Next stop, wherever you want to go, right? I mean, so I think that's really exciting. I think that these bikes they're a heavier bike, but so they're going to be a little bit sturdier than the Lime Bike. And I think it's going to be a great offering for people, especially as we're coming out of this pandemic and there might be some hesitance about using public transportation. Making sure that people have options to not just be in their single occupancy vehicle is so important. And the last thing I want to underscore is, so when we were making this decision a couple of years ago to go with Lime Bike, we were also looking at Blue Bike. And at that time, round number's sake, we were being asked to contribute just about $200,000 to be able to get into the Blue Bike system, to be able to acquire the system and to pay something towards operating the system. To start today, we're paying $20,000. And again, that ties back into the great work of our Department of Planning and Community Development, writing grants and forging this partnership with these other communities and Lyft, the owner of the Blue Bike system, such that $100,000 is coming from Lyft, $80,000 is coming from a workforce mobility grant from the state level, and $20,000 as was approved by town meeting back in June. So, I mean, what a deal, right? If we, a couple of years ago, looking at 200 grand, now getting this really good feature for the livability of Arlington for $20,000, I think is a win-win-win all around.
And I got to say, as someone who has spent a whole lot of time on my bike over the last 40 years, September, October, maybe not so much November, but September and October, fabulous months to be on a bike in this area. So the introduction is coming at a propitious time for sure. And let's hope that, right away, they are well used and appreciated.
Yes, totally. I agree. Get out there. We'll all get our membership cards and get out there.
A pretty common staple of my conversations with you over the years, as well as folks in the planning department and just around town hall, have been about the need to try and expand the commercial tax base in town, and the pretty severe limits on that possibility in a lot of ways. Okay, so it's within that context that I want to ask you about the recent approval from the ARB, unanimous approval, to move forward with the kind of special, what do you call it, special permission? Or?
Special permit.
Special permit for a hotel in, do you call that part of Arlington, Arlington Heights? Anyway, right on Mass Ave, in Arlington. How should people be greeting this news by your lights?
So, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I am always interested in what things like this mean for the finances of the town. And I know there's been a lot of voices asking for more commercial development, especially along the commercial corridors. And I think a hotel is a double win because you're going to get commercial tax revenue from the property tax. And there's a hotel motel excise tax that we collect. So for the Homewood Suites, we collect, I want to say, in non-pandemic times, I think the number is close to $300,000 or $400,000 a year. Now, that's a bigger hotel than what's proposed and been approved up in the Heights. But, I would guess we'll probably collect, if it's utilized at what I'm assuming the developer hope it's utilized at, probably an additional $100,000 in local receipt money. So when you think about commercial development, we're getting commercial development, which I think is a positive. B, it's commercial development that brings alongside an extra tax that we're able to collect, which can't be said about many other types of development. I mean, the only two that we have extra taxation on right now are hotels, restaurants, and when there is, what am I trying to say? A registered marijuana dispensary, recreational marijuana, we would be able to collect tax on that as well. So I think it's a good thing. Not to dismiss abutter concerns. I mean, we want to make sure it operates in harmony with those that are already living in that area. So I think abutter concerns should be listened to, and I want us to make sure that the developer and the eventual operator of the hotel are open to addressing abutter concerns and operating in a manner that makes it such that they're a good neighbor, and I think that's very important. But I think when you look at trying to find the right ways to find an expansion of our commercial tax base, I think this was a home run.
Yeah, and you didn't mention, but there's also the fact that, hey, it's a hotel. So people are going to be coming there who are visiting town. Yep. Therefore, they're going to be needing to eat, and shop and et cetera, et cetera. So yes. One hopes and one assumes that on the fiscal side and on the financial side, this certainly looks like a great thing. And from what I understand, there's a bunch of conditions that they will need to meet in order to address the concerns of abutters and others. So let's, we'll see what happens, but it does sound like a winner from what you've, in the terms that you have described. Last thing for today, Adam, and it's not a small thing. It shouldn't come as last, really, and that is, he is somewhere in the process, is Al Tosti, the long-term chairman of our finance committee, in the process of extricating himself from that duty. I know he did give up the chairmanship for sure. I'm not sure where he is in the process of retiring from the committee and from his town activities on that level. I know you've had a chance to work with him during your entire tenure. And that's a very important kind of partnership to have. So I just want to ask you, for your thoughts on Al's service, how it was working with him, and any wishes you might want to share for him with our audience.
Thank you very much for that opportunity to talk a little bit about Al. It's interesting because Al Tosti, in that role as finance committee chairman, and he served in that role so well, was in a position to push town management, to push town leadership, to make sure it was refining its arguments, to do its planning, its financial planning effectively, its financial reporting effectively. So for the past decade, basically, I've had Al Tosti talking to me and working with me and pushing me to continue to do better, be better, and really be as solid as we can be, and to really think through our spending as thoroughly as we can. And some might think, well, that could be a tough relationship, right? To have this citizen, non-elected citizen committee member pushing on management on finances. And in all honesty, I think of Al Tosti just about as fondly as I think of anyone that I've worked with in this community. He balances fiscal stewardship and a watchdog type eye on the town's budget with being a balanced, reasonable, and compassionate man. And I can't say enough good things about Al. And I didn't even anticipate this. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. He's just, we talk about the overrides that have passed. We talk about debt exclusions that the town has had passed, our long-range plans, the way we've been able to invest in the school department and other town departments. And he doesn't always get the credit for this because in a lot of meetings, he plays the role of pushing back on spending. But at the end of the day, if you believe Arlington is a place with good fiscal stability, which I do, there's a lot of people who deserve thanks, but no one more than Al Tosti. He has dedicated so much time and so much effort for no reward on his own, right? Because he loves Arlington and cares about Arlington. And there is no question that Arlington is a better place for his service. And I think he is staying on the committee to serve as a backbencher, as he would describe it. But, and I'm excited to work with Charlie Foskett, who will be taking his place as chair of the finance committee. But I think even Charlie knows filling Al's shoes will be nearly impossible because of what Al's brought to this community over the really, I think, almost 30 plus years of service to the town.
Yeah, and as far as I know, Charlie has been the vice chair there for a number of years, for as long as I've been following the finance committee, and so obviously has worked very closely with Al himself. And one assumes that that is going to have kind of productive, ramifications for his taking on the stewardship of the committee. And we wish him all the best. But thank you for those words about Al Tosti, who I think, I'm sure merits everything that you said about him, but how lovely that you are well positioned and as articulate as you are to be able to, give that appreciation to Al that he, I'm sure, so richly deserves. So thanks for that.
Well, thanks again for the opportunity. And if I can, I'd like to underscore that, I think I do have this unique perspective of someone that saw all sides of Al. And there might be a lot of people in the town who only have seen the penny pincher or, the real thrifty town spender. But, I think I have, again, this unique ability to have seen the totality and to really appreciate just how crucial he's been to this town's success.
All right. Well, one crucial person to this town's success to another. That's Adam Chapdelaine on Al Tosti. And with that, we will conclude our chat for this week. And thank you for your time as always, Adam. And look forward to catching up with you next week, though it won't be on Monday since we will all hopefully be enjoying a leisurely Labor Day. But look forward to our next conversation. Thanks again.
You're welcome.